They're watching you, right now. Not your words, but your presence. Every glance, every pause, every hesitation, it tells them more than you could ever say. Power doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't need explanations. It notices the tiny cracks, the hidden tells, the moments you reveal yourself without even realizing it. Most people think respect comes from speaking loudly, from proving themselves. They're wrong. It comes from the silence, the subtle, the unspoken, the way a room bends around you before you even open your mouth. By the time they hear your words, it's often too late. You've already been sized up, categorized, understood, or dismissed. And that judgment will follow you. The question is, are you aware of what they see? Or are you blind to the signals you've been sending all along?
You might think people respect strength, but they don't. Not really. What they respond to is perceived control, the quiet signals your mind and body are sending before you even speak. Every posture, every glance, every hesitation or lack of one broadcasts more about you than words ever could. Think about the last time someone walked into a room and everyone instinctively leaned in, followed their lead, or even feared to challenge them. That wasn't charm, that wasn't charisma, that was perceived power. And here's the catch, it's invisible to most. Most people never notice it, and those who do often react unconsciously. Humans are wired to read subtle cues, micro-expressions, breathing patterns, timing, silence. Even the way you occupy space sends messages. You might smile, gesture, or speak confidently, but it's often the things you don't do that make the strongest impact. Hesitation shows vulnerability. Rush shows insecurity. Silence can terrify. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't advise leaders to speak more, to explain themselves, or to justify their actions. He understood that observation precedes respect, that people notice patterns before promises, and that fear or awe can be cultivated in the space between actions and words. Now imagine applying this every time you interact. You don't have to shout, you don't have to perform, you just have to be aware, be deliberate. Let your presence signal what your words haven't even begun to articulate. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't aware of the signals they're giving off. They think respect comes from talking, from explaining, from trying to convince others. It doesn't. Respect comes from what they sense, not what you say. Fear, intrigue, attention, they all grow quietly in the room before a single word is spoken. And the moment you realize this, everything changes. You start to see patterns. You notice who pays attention, who hesitates, who steps back. You begin to understand why silence is often louder than words, and why power always notices what most people miss. Most people assume respect comes from speaking first, being louder, or proving themselves. That's the lie they've been taught. The truth? The louder you talk, the less power you often hold. Ask yourself this: why do the quiet ones always seem to carry more weight? The ones who pause before answering, who watch before reacting, who let silence fill the room. Because respect, and even fear, doesn't respond to noise. It responds to subtlety, perception, and control you don't even need to explain. Think about a CEO in a boardroom, a general on the battlefield, or even a skilled negotiator. Their words are measured, few, almost incidental, yet everyone notices them, everyone reacts. It's not the words themselves, it's the pattern behind them, the restraint, the invisible signals. Most people never see it. Most people can't replicate it. Here's the cognitive dissonance. Society tells us to speak, to explain, to justify. But the people who truly wield power, they often say less, and their presence does the talking. The room bends before they utter a sentence. The tension shifts without a sound, and the unspoken rules become clear. Control comes from what you don't do, not what you forcefully display. Contrast that with someone constantly trying to prove themselves. They interrupt, over-explain, push for agreement. They think effort earns respect. It doesn't. It exposes weakness. And those who are truly observant, they see the cracks immediately. Machiavelli wouldn't have wasted a word. He understood that people are always watching, always judging, even when you think they aren't. Respect is earned through perception. Fear is cultivated through presence, and the loudest voice in the room rarely holds the most influence. The flip side is simple but brutal. you can retrain yourself to become that person who commands attention without a word. You learn to notice patterns, anticipate reactions, and understand that control is rarely about dominance in action. It's dominance in subtle signals, posture, timing, and silence. By the time you speak, if you've mastered these unspoken rules, your words aren't necessary to impress. They reinforce what everyone has already felt. Power is present, even before a single syllable escapes your lips.
Notice how most people miss the signals that matter. They're too busy talking, explaining, or performing. You're not them. You see what others don't. You catch the patterns, the hesitation, the invisible cues. This is the point where things start to get dangerous or powerful, depending on how aware you are. And if you're noticing these patterns already, you're ahead of most people in the room. If that hit you and you're seeing what others overlook, take a second. Tap that like button. Not because I asked, but because you know insight like this deserves attention. Power isn't just taken, it's observed, understood, and anticipated. The people who control rooms, negotiations, or social circles don't announce themselves. They signal it subtly, and everyone reacts before a word is spoken. Picture this: a manager in a tense meeting. They don't raise their voice, they don't argue. They pause, they lean back, they study the room. And almost instantly, people start bending to their rhythm. It's not intimidation in the obvious sense, it's control through perception. One glance, one measured gesture, and the hierarchy is silently established. Even in everyday life, dominance works the same way. Someone cuts in line, but you subtly shift, maintain eye contact, and they hesitate. The unspoken rule is set. You notice, you decide the boundaries. People react to how you hold yourself more than what you say. Power dynamics are all around you, hiding in the tiniest interactions, the subtlety of timing, the weight of a pause, the intention behind a word. These dictate who leads, who follows, who fears, and who respects. Those who ignore these cues, they get walked over, repeatedly, silently. Machiavelli knew it centuries ago. Control isn't always visible. Authority often hides in observation, anticipation, and small, decisive actions. The strongest leaders rarely speak first. They read the room, detect weakness, and act with precision. Here's the brutal part. Ignoring these dynamics comes at a cost. You might think you're assertive, but if your timing is off, if your presence is misread, you lose influence before you even realize it. Power sees you first, long before your words matter. The takeaway? Mastering dominance isn't about being loud. It's about being aware, calculated, and deliberate. Every gesture, every pause, every unspoken signal can shift outcomes in your favor or leave you powerless in the background.
Authority isn't just what people see, it's what they feel. Power works through perception, and perception is a machine running mostly unnoticed. Every glance, every hesitation, every pause feeds it. People assign intelligence, trust, and fear before a single word lands. Think about someone entering a room and immediately drawing attention, not because they say anything, but because the room reacts to them. That reaction is layered. Body language, micro-movements, energy. The subtle shifts tell the story. Most miss it, few notice it, and fewer still use it intentionally. Intelligence in social hierarchies isn't measured by what you know, it's measured by what you signal without trying. Leaders, manipulators, and influencers understand this. They know when to stay silent, when to step forward, when to let someone else expose themselves first. Consider perception like a chessboard. Each person is a piece. Your movement, your hesitation, your gaze, they are all strategic signals. The stronger your awareness, the better you predict reactions, control attention, and direct outcomes without speaking. By the time words appear, the game is already set in your favor. Machiavelli didn't teach manipulation for cruelty. He taught it for understanding human patterns. Observe, anticipate, influence, but never reveal your hand fully. The moment people see your strategy, it loses power. Fear and respect thrive in ambiguity, in the space between action and explanation. Here's what most people won't tell you. The smartest moves are often invisible. Subtle cues shape more decisions than words ever could. A raised eyebrow, a slight pause, the way you hold your shoulders, these are your hidden levers of control. And the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes.
People respond to what you project unconsciously. Your presence, your timing, your awareness, these define your authority long before your words matter. Ignore it, and you remain just another voice in the crowd. Master it, and the room bends without resistance.
Power isn't neutral. It has a dark side, and most people stumble into it without even knowing. Manipulation, subtle deceit, psychological games, they're everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Ignoring these dynamics isn't just naive, it's dangerous. Think about the coworker who smiles, nods, but always gets their way, or the leader who never raises their voice, but always shifts the outcome subtly in their favor. Most people call it luck or charm. The truth? It's calculated observation, timing, and exploitation of human tendencies. And if you're unaware, you're the one being exploited. The worst part is how subtle it is. People don't notice until it's too late. A withheld word here, a pause there, a carefully timed glance. These are the moves that create fear, obedience, and influence without anyone realizing they've been drawn in. And the moment you think you can ignore it, you're already falling behind. Even in personal relationships, these patterns exist. Someone may always seem cooperative, generous, or calm, but they know exactly what pushes your buttons, what makes you hesitate, what makes you obey. The danger is underestimating silence, observation, and subtle control. Most people never see it coming. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. Ignoring the hidden mechanisms of influence leaves you vulnerable. You don't have to be ruthless to recognize them. You just have to be aware. Fear, respect, control. They're tools. And if you leave them in the hands of others, you become a pawn. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who dominate are rarely obvious. They hide in plain sight, working in the gaps, exploiting signals you didn't even know you sent. Every misstep, every unguarded expression, every small lapse in awareness is an opportunity for them, not you. The lesson is clear. Power has consequences, and ignorance is the fastest route to being controlled. Awareness is your shield, observation is your weapon, and silence, when used correctly, can be more lethal than any argument, any speech, or any show of strength. Here's the truth most people will never admit. Power doesn't wait. It watches. It evaluates. And by the time words matter, the judgment has already been made. Respect, fear, influence, they live in what you show without trying, in the pauses, the posture, the patterns. You can try to talk your way into authority. You can force attention with noise and explanations. But the people who truly dominate, they move silently. They observe. They let the room reveal itself to them. And when they act, everything bends naturally around their presence. The real power isn't in being heard. It's in being understood without words. It's in knowing what others don't see, noticing what others overlook, and shaping outcomes while appearing effortless. That's the edge few ever grasp. And now, you're noticing it. So here's the challenge. Take this awareness seriously. Observe more than you speak. Let your presence speak for you. Measure your words, control your signals, and understand that the room, the people, the situation, they're always reading you first. If this insight hit you, if you're starting to see the invisible rules of power, you're in the minority. Few pay attention, fewer act. Stay sharp, stay deliberate, and stay ahead. And if you want to keep uncovering these truths, to see the patterns most people miss, make sure you subscribe now. Not for hype, not for empty promises, but to stay awake in a world that prefers everyone blind.